All right, welcome to the latest edition of the FPL America podcast. This is David Smith.
Travis Hoig.
Brian Shesko.
Gentlemen, today was an interesting day for me. Well, one I didn't really completely have planned. I expected to go to work. There was some things I had to do. I had to do some invoicing this morning as you can't get paid in my business of plumbing if you don't
Sounds exciting.
do invoicing. Otherwise, you're just working for free. So my wife calls me as I'm out, and she said, hey, what are you – actually, I take that back. I was coming back from playing pickleball this morning. She said, hey, what does your day look like?
He started that as though he was actually doing work, but really he was just messing around.
I realized what's going on. So
wait, did you play against Andre Agassi?
No.
He played his first match today, too.
Did he?
Yeah.
I'm sure he's amazing.
As a professional.
As a professional pickleballer, of course.
Well, I thought you were professional. You're not? Okay.
I'm not. Horribly not. So
please continue.
Wife calls me. What are you doing? I said, hey, well, I need to do some invoicing, and then there's some things I have to do, but I haven't told anyone, like, I haven't made any appointments today, but there are some things I can go do.
Okay.
And I had a couple things, like one concrete thing cancel or just reschedule. So she said, well, why don't you go to Charlottesville with me, and we can pick up your birthday present. I'm like, birthday present? What are you talking about? She said, yeah, I found something on Facebook Marketplace.
It's another dog.
The other night, and that thought did not cross my mind. So she's like, and while we're up there, we'll go by Costco. We don't have a Costco.
The real reason she wanted to go up there.
Where we live. So we drive up to, so I'm like, all right, sure, let's do it. So I said, this would just, this is a good marriage building moment. Oh. We can go have a day date while the kids are at school. We don't get many chances to do that.
Sure.
So we take off and do that. We drive to this house, and she showed me a picture before we got there, what it was. And this is not something I had asked for, but I've talked about it for years, getting a solo stove. Outdoor little solo stove.
Okay.
So we drive up to pick it up and open it. It's in a nice carrying case. Open it up. We had seen pictures. Sure enough, everything looked good. Everything was in there.
Yeah.
It was a doorstep pickup. I guess that's the thing. So they left it outside their door. Never talked to them.
Really?
We looked at it. Both cars were in the driveway. We picked it up. Before we got in the truck, Cheryl, I guess, sent the payment. And then as we were turning around, they were coming out of the house with the kids, like helmets. They were riding the little bikes. And so I guess they were waiting on us to show up to leave.
And not murder them.
We could have just talked to them, but you know what? It was, I lived up in Crozet. I'm sure they're very nice people. 2 Subarus in the driveway, and both white, which was interesting, but great. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, how would you... Yeah, 2 white super. Wait, how would you know which one was which though?
UVA tags. Wow. So, yeah,
probably loyal listeners.
Really, really nice neighborhood. They look like super nice people, but they had no business talking to the slums coming to buy their solo stove.
All right.
Wow. So
you got your stove.
Yeah. So we picked that up. Went to Costco. So then we go to Costco and so we're walking around, and again, we don't have a tight time schedule, but
Please tell me there's a solo stove on sale for less than what you paid for it.
Not necessarily. So we're walking. It was $85 for a solo stove, and the one we got normally goes for $200. So
okay,
it's fine.
Yeah.
They look used after you use it the first time, anyways, right? So, anyway, so we're walking around Costco, and we're walking through the outdoor area, and I see this. It's a pop-up shelter that it's a tent, but there's no walls to it, right? So it's just a shade shelter.
Okay.
And we've had one for like 10 years,
okay,
and I hate it. It is so used, and like there's a couple like minor tears in the top, and there's sand grit in the legs from when we've taken it to the beach.
So you know it's good.
The carrying case has by now completely fallen apart. So now it's literally, if we take it anywhere, I have to just like bear hug it and walk it out there.
But you enjoy that.
I don't. I hate that tent. For the last 3 years, I've been trying to figure out a good way to get rid of that tent. So we're in there. There's a really nice one, and it's only $170. And I'm like,
what's that in euros?
I'm pretty sure that's a good price. I don't know. Probably about even. So then probably look it up.
You keep going.
Look it up. I say probably even. So the euro's usually been worth a little bit more, but not much. I bet it's probably even. So
you said 170.
So anyway, so I'm looking at this, like trying to do the calculations. How this is bigger, 13 by 13. Our other one was 10 by 10, but really it was like it felt like it was 8 by 8. And because the legs like came at a stupid angle out instead of like straight down, which always really annoyed me. Again, this thing, we used it significantly over the last 10 years.
$170 is 150 euros.
Okay. All right. So like I said, almost even. I mean, that's just taxes. Anyway, so.
Depends on where it's made.
That's fair. So that's never been more apropos than today in this country. So anyway, so while I'm looking at like, I'm trying to figure out, because I super nerd out about some of this stuff. I'm like looking at it, trying to figure out, okay, do we need to, is this a good decision? Yes, probably. We need it. I hate the other one. And my wife is over on this other aisle and I hear her call me. I'm like, she's like, Dave, come here and look at this. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, daggone it, I just want to look at some reviews on this. I'm trying to make a decision, so I go over there, and there's this this kitchen sink that's boxed up. It's Kohler. It's got a faucet. It's also got like a drying rack. It's a huge single bowl sink. She's like, would this fit in our kitchen? And I look at the measurements. I'm like, yeah, it's 33 by 22. It's pretty much a standard kitchen sink opening. I'm like, yeah, it'll fit.
She picks it up,
puts
it in the cart.
She's like, what do you think? I'm like, and I'm looking at the faucet, and I'm looking at the sink, and the other accessories that come with it that like fit in the sink, and like a cutting board and this drying rack that kind of rolls over and flops over. I'm like,
you never have enough.
This is a really good price for this, and it's Kohler, and they make good kitchen sink faucets. So I'm like, let's do it. Screw it. I hate that sink.
So you didn't get the.
Oh no, I went.
Shelter.
I got the shelter too.
Wow, you had a great birthday.
I got the shelter too because I'm like, there's no way I'm passing this.
You got everything, even the kitchen sink.
Yeah, exact. That funny thing is, so as we're leaving, the guy's like looking at our receipts. Cheryl's like, "Hey, we got 2 receipts here for you because we paid for it from 2 different accounts or whatnot." And he's like, "Wow, you guys got everything and the kitchen sink." And I was like, nice dad joke there. So anyway, so yeah, it's just kind of a so then we get back home and I install I take our old sink out, install the sink.
Taking a major turn.
And it's just been kind of a wild, weird day. Didn't really do anything that I wanted to do, but then kind of got a birthday present out of it. And then I go home and try to. I knew our grill was like literally on its last leg. I used it this past weekend. Okay. I'm like, this is on the struggle bus.
Well, you bought a grill too?
No, but it's next because then I tried to use it tonight, and I tried to take a few parts out to try to clean it a little bit to make it work better. Oh no, it started falling apart the second I started touching it. So I'm like, yeah, time for a new grill. So now that's next.
It's gonna be a great birthday.
Yeah, it is going to be a great birthday. But we're not here to talk about my Costco episodes or
it's a little late for that.
My birthdays. We are here to talk about. Match week 34.
Hey, you know what? I'm really glad that you're not going to have to put all that in your diary tonight.
Okay, I know it's all.
You've already gotten it off your chest.
It's all here.
So
it's true. It's all good. Here. Yeah. Match week 34. Many people free hit. Some others did not. And we talked about this briefly pre-pod. The free hitters at the moment seem to be up a bit. I don't know where other people free hit. There was a match week a few weeks ago on the blank week where some people free hit and some people just tried to weather the storm or whatnot.
Scott free hit last week and destroyed.
Some people free hit. Scott crushed his free hit last week. You guys remember that guy? I saw him this weekend. I'm like, Scott, when can we get you back in the pod? He's like,
never.
I don't think so.
Yeah, never going to happen.
I think he has just written us off. He either hates us or just hates
me. Just hates me.
He just doesn't like you.
Yeah, that's what it is.
To be honest. So anyways, look, the average this week is 38 points. I am at the moment on a 79, which I think is okay. Brian's doing much better on an 88. Travis, you're not doing bad.
70.
And daggone it. I changed that page up. That's so annoying. Yeah, so there's just a lot of different different results from this week, but it seems like at the moment, Brian, and I don't know if you would agree, it seems like the free hitters did okay this week.
Yes.
It could have been better. It could have been better.
Still game to play.
Actually, the way I have it written down is could have been worse, I guess.
Wow. I think it could have been better, especially when Harv Barnes, who had been on a complete heater in the last, I don't know, he had pointed in the last
Oh, yeah, he was crushing.
7 match weeks, and he's playing Ipswich at home and doesn't point.
Yeah,
doesn't give you a return.
I thought about captaining him
that
too. I'm glad it didn't.
So that for me was disappointing. Him not getting much there.
Yeah.
Fulham letting in a meaningless goal.
Yeah, early on though, you got that one out of the way early.
I was upset about that.
Hey, but it happened almost exactly the way we described it last week, though.
Probably. Did it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. I think it was actually the guy.
Yeah, the figures.
Adama.
No,
because I think he was involved too.
No, I mean I was gonna say with Nottingham Forest can still and Brentford I think because I'm sure there are plenty of Chris Wood havers that are still out there.
Jack Stevens.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was Jack Stevens.
14th minute.
No, there's plenty of Bumo, plenty of Wissa. There might be some Nottingham Forest defensive players or Sells. Which I'm not sure if you had the choice why you would do that. It's probably you were forced to play that. Well, it seems like there should be goals in that game. But what I was gonna say, I almost wanted to say that it seems rare that like so many trendy picks all get big returns in the same week.
Salah, Diaz, Cunha.
But then,
Nori.
Well, yeah, I remembered that it happens about once a year.
Jose Saw was a big pick too.
It does happen.
Was too.
Game week 34 last year. I don't know if you remember it or not, but that was the week where Mateta was Crystal Palace. It was like, is Crystal Palace? Should we go heavy on Palace or not? And Mateta scored like 4 goals. He finished with 29 by himself in the game week.
Oh my gosh!
So there were scores. I mean, I'm sure I was well over 100 in game week 34 last year. 2 years ago, I checked. There was 25 players in the double game week 34 who scored at least 10 points.
Wow.
So I mean, it's not, and this wasn't a double game week. I think that was it. I think it's that it was a significant blank game week. And so if you had already set up your team to navigate it, or if you had planned for the free hit, as long as you went with basically the
chalk,
the pundit picks,
you
probably did okay or are doing okay. Cunha, I think Cunha, Aït-Nouri, and Ryan Sessegnon were kind of the 3 big ones.
I had those 3.
Right. And so, and my week would be even better if I hadn't gotten too cute. But
Sessegnon was only owned currently 2.3%.
Yeah, I think, and honestly, like, I know it was partially trolling. It was probably as a way of putting some people off of it. But Andy Martin, who likes to troll the whole world, it seems. I mean, he talked regularly last week about kind of being excited about people picking players with minutes risks, and he included Cunha in there initially. He talked about Harvey Barnes. He talked about Sessegnon, like players. It was like no guarantee that they were going to start, much less play significant minutes. Right. None of those things came true. The only thing that happened was that if you did go for, some of those side players, I guess, you might have gotten a lesser return than you were expecting, but only a blank, not a non-start.
Yeah.
Really, the only guy who didn't start probably that was a consideration was Anthony Robinson. That was like the one guy who, I mean, we talked about that, about like security of minutes, like the kind of a boring pick. And he ends up not even being in the squad. So almost everybody else that was on that was a high level consideration started. And other than probably, I don't know, Raul Jimenez was in the mix for some people. But other than that, it was. I mean, really, it was only a few guys who didn't get you anything. in a segment, just as we'll wrap it up with in a segment, I want to call it this. Dan, you can burn, and you know where.
Oh, wow.
Dan Byrne scored his first and I assume only goal that he'll score this season, because of course he would. Just that he had 13 points this week, and right now it's the second highest score of anybody this week.
And you've been saying he's the one Liverpool or Newcastle defender that I don't want.
Yeah,
it's always been Schär, Livramento.
Well, I had him for the 2 previous weeks, and of course in the 2 previous weeks, Schär and Livramento, everybody else gets you something.
Of course.
And Byrne, I can't complain. Tell you, when I had him, he had a 6 and a 7, so it's not like he was terrible.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying,
to hear you tell it, he was.
Everybody else did great.
Really, seriously.
But I made up for it this week. We can talk about with game week 34, because Trippier was this week was going for Trippier. That was my that was kind of a no-brainer.
Did he give you something?
Yeah, I think he's high scorer right now with Cunha. I think
really?
He's 15.
He's 15?
I think he went for 15.
Wow. Good for you.
This
call.
Because it was the back line of, if you went for
so you didn't have Murphy or
if you went for Jose Sa as your goalkeeper, first of all, you're the luckiest. That's the luckiest. That is so lucky.
Because we weren't sure if he was even going to play.
Well, I think once it was said he was okay, if you went for him, totally fine. That's an understandable pick given the opponent. But it said he saved a penalty.
Right.
Like, so you already, as soon as they concede the penalty, you're like, great, Vardy's taking it.
Right.
Kind of, that did kind of happen the way, in a way, kind of the way we would a bit of expectation.
Right.
And Vardy takes a weak penalty, and Sa picks the right way, and he saves it straight up. And so Sa goes to a 12 this weekend instead of probably a straight up of just a plain
2.
6, or not a clean sheet. But I'm just saying, like, but
he kept a clean sheet and the penalty save in that one move.
Right, exactly. So instead of conceding, he saves the penalty, goes from 2 to 12 or however many save points he ended up getting, whatever. No, but yeah, a back line because that did happen. It was Sa as a goalkeeper, Sessegnon, Trippier, and Trippier and Aït-Nouri.
Yeah,
as kind of the defense and goalkeeper, and that was worth a ton
of points.
Well, 35, but 37.
More than that.
37. I did the math.
No, 40.
11
plus
15 plus 12. 11 plus 12 has got to be more than 35.
27.
Fast math.
49 points.
49.
Just for your defense and goalkeeper,
which is
an amazing week.
It's insane.
That was really good.
But no, there were other people. All
right.
So we can. So double dilemmas. Well, if you want to talk about, you did dilemmas. Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah, So every time we do our labels, I always spell something wrong, and Brian tells me to fix it. This time I didn't even show it to him because I spelled it wrong on purpose.
I didn't even
he looked up at the board. He looked up at the board. And he's thinking, does that really say dilemmas?
So what I was looking at it for was just to see where in the list the update on double game week 37 or double game week 36 was going to be.
It's item 3 with the limas.
Oh my goodness.
Well, so I guess if we want to get into some of the stats that were big this week, the question is like the leaders of the week in certain statistical categories or even point getters this week, and the question is, do you care?
Do you care about Jose Sa?
Does this matter at all?
Do you care about Dan Byrne?
I would say,
Do you care about Chalobah?
Well, look who people are transferring in. I mean, you can see on the list already the performances this week. It's affecting the way people are doing their transfers already. I mean, part of it, you're already...
Bumo hasn't even played and people are going to him.
Aït-Nouri is your second most transferred in defender still. Kieran Trippier is your 5th most transferred in defender despite being the most expensive Newcastle defender by far. Bumo, Rogers is back. Jared Bowen had an amazing week this week. Jared Bowen's your 3rd most transferred in. I think that makes a lot of sense. Jacob Murphy, despite probably being the riskiest of all of the Newcastle midfielders, I think, or at least the way it's because Anthony Gordon is back and because he was substituted early and Barnes didn't come off.
At 66, he made it 66.
Right, but he's been doing that. I think
Right.
the fear is if anyone is at threat, is having their position threatened, it's
Murphy.
It's not Harv, it's Jacob Murphy. But it doesn't stop people from being, or he's the sixth most transferred in from it. What I'm saying is, like, Cunha is your number one transfer in after Bumo. So, like, obviously the week had a big impact on the way people are doing their transfers.
I don't have Cunha currently in my team.
Right, so let's start with him.
Wild.
Let's start with Cunha and
I have
Nori.
Vissa, Isak, and Marmoush. It's not bad.
No.
But I feel like Cunha needs to work his way in there. That might be my one transfer this week. Anyway.
Marmoush doesn't have any. We'll talk about that too.
The remaining schedule for Wolverhampton Wanderers is at Manchester City, home Brighton, at Crystal Palace, home Brentford.
Yeah, that's not awesome.
And but so just going through the list, like, City can't stop anyone from scoring, except Everton. So they're not. It doesn't feel like a kind of defense that's going to get scored on a lot, but they've not been great this year. So
And if someone's going to score against him, it's likely to be him.
Brighton's form had really kind of dropped off a cliff before their big comeback here against West Ham this week. 16 goals conceded, 15 goals conceded in the last 6 games for Brighton. They haven't had a clean sheet since game week 26.
Wow.
And that was at Southampton.
Wow.
Where it's a free clean sheet, except for Fulham.
I was going to say, I think that's
Palace. The Palace game
Fulham.
would be depending on what happens with the double game week. It would be part of the double, and they would be getting to play Crystal Palace ahead of the FA Cup final, depending on how things move.
Crystal Palace might be resting some people.
I don't know.
You don't really want to go in cold.
I mean, is going to play a youth team?
They could.
I think they get fined for
I think they'll still play a relatively normal team because I think they do have enough.
But if it's not,
but it would be like Eze coming on for 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
They can start in Kedia and not Mateta. Sarr can play up front. It seems like he's Iron Man that plays all the minutes anyway. But either way, so that's like kind of in there. It's at least a consideration. And then Brentford in game week 38. I mean, you'd be loading up on both of those teams anyway. That could be 7-6.
Right.
To either team. So all of that to say, unless things go really weird with Cunha, I think that was kind of the other question with him. It's one of the reasons why. It's not the reason why I took him out, but I mean, when I say I got cute, I put Strand Larson in instead of Cunha. I took Cunha out, put in Strand Larson. I was kind of buying it.
He still got you something.
At least he scored.
Yeah.
That's for sure. It could have been way worse, especially because he missed, like Men in Blazers like to say, the shot that he missed, it was harder to miss than to score.
Yeah.
No, wait. How do they say it?
That's what I would say. Harder to miss than
Yeah,
score.
but they have
surely say it better than that.
They have a funnier way.
All right.
Point being, I kind of was buying into Cunha, like, he's leaving. He's like one of the top striker rumors of players leaving.
He's going
their
somewhere.
Club. And
very likely.
And fans were not having it. So I was kind of thinking, like, all right, well, once they said that Bellegarde was back, that was part of it too, is that Bellegarde had taken some minutes. Strand Larson was starting every game regardless. Cunha could come off the bench, and I was going to I'll take my chances in a great matchup with the guy that scored, like, now 9 of like the last 10 games or something like that. And it turns out that Cunha comes in and just smashes. So, but I'm saying unless something really strange happens, it feels like you would want, I don't know, just the attacking players from Wolves. Yeah. Cunha's he's a sensible transfer, but, like, why not wait a week? Like, what's City?
Right.
What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do? Is he gonna go for 15 again against City?
Probably not.
No,
I just wouldn't.
Rodri's back in full training as well. That's not gonna affect the Wolves game, but that is pretty important.
That's the other thing. Rodri and Haaland reportedly both back in training.
Wow.
So either way, I'm just saying, like,
Arsenal better look out. They might not get second.
They got second.
I understand why you'd go, why you would want to put Cunha in the team. It's not in any way a bad transfer. I'm just saying, like,
just wait a week, maybe.
This is not a ceiling week. This is he's a reliable player, and I'll get him just because week, whatever.
Gotcha.
Also, depending again, like, if it turns into a double game week in 36. 37, the way if everything goes doubles, the way, when we talk about it later, we talk about it in our dilemma. This is a real dilemma. You'd have a major headache in 37 again with blanks. So that's the other part of it. I don't know how much, like, depending on how you load up on these people. So that's the other question. Eight Nori he's been one of the most attacking players. Like, basically, when I would talk about Trippier, when I was looking at Trippier's stats, it was like, in the last, like, basically 7 games, the Trippier has played. I'm going back through and I'm like, there's only Eight Nori has scored more points than Trippier has in the last 7 games. Only Eight Nori has created 13 chances, the most chances created of all the defenders. And so it's like all the stats are like Eight Nori, Trippier. Porro is in there a little bit. But, like, Eight Nori is that's as also a completely understandable, like, you're buying him for attacking. It's just returns. So this week it was great. It was great when it was great that he was involved in goals. It was great that he had the game that he did. It just feels like a no-brainer kind of pick for the rest of the season.
All right.
I was going to say Trippier, or it could be any Newcastle defender. The numbers specifically for Trippier, he gets 2 assists this week, gets all 3 bonus points.
Isn't it the first time he's had a return in a while?
No, Dave. Actually, it's your favorite kind of scoreline. I actually wrote this down specifically for you.
Thank you.
In the last 7 games, he's gone 8-2, 6-2, 10-0, 15.
Which means
coming back to a 1 probably this
next
week.
Match.
It's the one number he didn't get whenever he didn't get it. Like I said, since he came back 7 games ago, game week 28, he returned to the starting lineup full time. In that time frame, he has started 7 games. Started all 7 games. Has played a minimum of 75 minutes in all of them. Got the scores that I said, so that gives him a total of 43 points. Again, 43 points in the last 7 games. Only Fabian Schär and Ryan Eight Nori have scored more, and they've scored 1 point more than Kieran Trippier. 3 assists, which is number 1 of all the defenders in that time. Created 13 chances, which was tied for the most with Pedro Porro and Ryan Eight Nori. Oddly for him, 1 big chance created, which seems weird. That he would only have created 1 and actually gotten 3 real-life assists.
Interesting.
And then it's all the odd passing stats with Trippier, where, like, he's taken 33 corners, which is the most of any defender by a million. Because second most is Porro with 13. So Trippier is just, it's every corner goes to Trippier, and that is only
on both sides. It probably
that's only good. And then my favorite stat ever: penalty area entries. That idea that he is passing the ball.
Penalty penetration.
Yes,
I think is what it is.
Yes, penetration. 58 penalty area entries.
Penaltration.
Also, first by a wide margin. So more actions, more passing plays into the penalty area than any other defender by
a significant
amount. Someone called Manning from Southampton is actually second.
Who?
I don't know. Look him up.
Okay.
Third for crosses, 13 successful crosses, which is second only to Pedro Porro. The point being that Kieran Trippier is he's dealing. And I'm not really sure. It feels more like a budget thing. And also, I think it's a fair question. how much are you really wanting to make defender transfers between now and
I don't want to make.
How bad does your defense have to be for you to say, like, yeah, I should probably swap that defender out?
I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
So, like, I got Timber. I'd transfer him out.
Okay.
I think.
We haven't gotten to that section yet, but I'd love to talk about that in night moves.
But, I mean, look at, I would just say, too, like, the schedule, the remaining schedule for Newcastle, like at Brighton this week, Brighton is going to score on them. So I think I would almost be sure of that.
All right. Well, I'll write your name here on the bets document. Would anyone like to
Brighton
take
score at home against Newcastle this game week. I don't see any reason why not.
You think Newcastle keeps a clean sheet or no?
I love just making bets. I'll say Newcastle keeps a clean sheet.
Yeah.
And the stats say that they won't. But you know what? Sometimes stats lie.
But the rest of it's not fantastic either. They're home to Chelsea,
at Everton, home
at Arsenal, and then home to Everton at the end of the season. I mean, that's as gray as can be.
Yeah.
And even at Arsenal, I mean, what are you playing for at that point?
Arsenal's just needs to get through next week.
Right. So that's what I mean. I mean, your season comes down to the second leg of the Champions League.
Already licking our wounds this week.
So that's what I mean. To me, I understand the numbers that Trippier has put up, and even then, look, he's got a 10-0 and 5. It's 25 points in the last 3 weeks. You'll take a 0 if you can sandwich it between a 10 and a 15. But whatever. I just think all of the Newcastle defenders, like, I don't know. I just don't love it. I just don't see a reason why you'd be making that kind of a move unless you're wild carding and you want to go like. He's only 5.8% selected right now, so it still counts as a pretty nice differential, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess the other side of it too, like, which do you care about more? Like, negative matchups or the fact that they're third? And that they're fighting for third, fourth, fifth. You know what I mean? Like, at this point, I'm not sure how much matchups matter. And if you were picking based on, like, just attacking potential, like, I'm saying there's the numbers right there. There is no more creative player in your defense than Ryan Aït-Nouri and Kieran Trippier. They're 1-2. At least since Trippier's come back and
the last 7 match weeks.
Right. So I guess that's, I mean, however you value that, if you want to kind of think of it that way.
Do they matter?
Does Trippier matter to you?
I would think so, but then you kind of showed me the rest of the
Does Ryan Aït-Nouri matter to you?
I've owned Aït-Nouri all season.
Wow.
I think Aït-Nouri, so...
even when he was doing poorly, I owned him.
I'm thinking about definitely bringing, even though they're playing at City this week, I feel like kind of bringing him in.
I've already sold Urian Timber like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And brought in Trippier.
Good move.
Antoine Semenyo is
fine.
The next guy that I had on the list. And he didn't do anything necessarily numerically crazy this week. It's just that
he scored, didn't he?
He's the only Bournemouth player to do anything that mattered. He outscored Kluivert again. This is the greatest.
Invisible.
Honestly,
Semenyo the last 4 weeks 6-10, 3-9.
I'm saying that this is one of the greatest troll jobs of all time. Like, look at what he had done prior to that, and then the last 4 weeks.
So his stats have flipped.
The
He's
5
doing
weeks,
nothing and getting returns.
The 5 weeks before that was a 2-1-1-1-2.
Right. 28 points in the last 4 games, which is third most for all midfielders in the last 4 games.
That's impressive.
2 goals and an assist in the last 4 games. 2 goals and an assist, 11 shots. 4 shots on target, 5 chances created. This is like Mr. Volume, and now he's having like his best returns almost of this season in like the lowest volume. Even weirder, just 12 touches in the opposition box in the last 4 games, which is barely inside the top 30 for midfielders.
Sometimes, Brian, you don't have to touch the box much.
I would not say it that way to anyone. The schedule for Bournemouth, I guess it's the similar kind of not great that Newcastle's is. Bournemouth is at Arsenal, home to Villa, at City.
At Arsenal this week is
They're
great.
playing your teens.
Is great
Right, okay.
this week.
And then they're
Because
home.
they're gonna sit everybody.
Yeah,
They're gonna play Zinchenko at
we gotta
striker
go to Paris and win
and pull out a magic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Dembele's hurt, so you'll be fine.
Is he?
Yeah.
he said
Supposedly he's a doubt.
He said he was okay.
Look, after the first 20 minutes of that game, and this is not Champions League podcast. The rest of that game was Arsenal's direction. In fact,
That's what Raya said
should
too.
be screaming about the fact that they didn't get a penalty on Marino trying to score. You can't kick the ball because the guy's leg was in the way.
Yeah, it's always some excuse for them. All right, so what were you
VAR
saying,
is
Brian?
against them.
Yeah.
Leicester is the
The
last.
announcers were against them.
That's true. Leicester, the
Horrible announcers.
last game of the season for Bournemouth is home to Leicester. In the event of a double game week in 36, it would probably make the same kind of interesting because it would be home Villa at City for Bournemouth in double game week.
Yeah,
double game week 36. I just like this to me feels like a medium to hard avoid, and then in 38 you get like Evan Nielsen.
Okay.
Once he's back from suspension.
He's not unsuspended, so he is not suspended anymore.
No,
they overturned the suspension.
He's in a
Why?
unsuspended.
Because they said he slipped. It was because that was the contention from all the contention from all Evan Nielsen owners as soon as it happened.
Yeah.
Nothing. That was hilarious.
Wild.
I almost went to him this week, but either way,
And we got the assist. It didn't matter.
So either way, I'm not sure what you're doing with Semenyo. It is he's still under 10%. People really aren't believing in it either. It's not like he's a mass transfer in. So, I mean, he is playing well. It's not a bad matchup this week. I think Aston Villa stinks defensively, and so the home game against Villa is useful. It's not great, but it's good.
Sure.
At Manchester City, I don't know, big shrug on that one. And then home to Leicester, you would want 3. If you knew that they were starting, you'd want as many of them as you could fit in your team. Travis, your turn. Do you care? Like, I know people are buying. It's
About
not
Travis?
like no. Like, just to wrap that up. So the gap between look at the transfers in. The gap between Semenyo and Kluivert it's not huge. Like, people still even after this like
Clivert's coming off of
probably
going
a
back to match
0-0.
week 29.
Yeah.
He's coming off a 2-0-0-0-2-2. That's what Clivert's doing. Ice cold, baby. Ice cold. Semenyo's found his shooting.
Yeah, but
boots,
he was
Brian.
hurt. I'm saying that it's not. I mean,
He hadn't been hurt the last 2 weeks, Clivert.
right. That's what I'm saying, though. He's now.
I don't
now
like
that
guys
he's
coming
back,
off injuries.
but he's still a penalty taker. I think that's. But I'm
They
saying,
haven't gotten any penalties.
and they're not guaranteed to get any. I'm not.
Facts.
If I was buying, I would not be buying Kluivert.
Gotcha.
But I'm saying that it's not that big of a gap
Gotcha.
between
Of
Semenyo
other
and Kluivert
transfers,
for other
which
people.
doesn't make sense.
Liverpool players not named Mo Salah or Luis Diaz. Do you care about any of them? I'm going to ask this question every week because Mac Allister
I
and
currently have
Szoboszlai
Konate.
again, both multiple players outscoring Mo Salah again.
Mac Allister has been finding his way around the pitch, Travis, and then he finds his way into the what'd you call it? The penetration. He's been getting penetration.
I didn't see it until after we recorded last week.
He doesn't want to acknowledge it.
It's my favorite.
I didn't see it
It's my
until
favorite.
after we recorded last week. But Szoboszlai had a 17 against Tottenham in the reverse fixture. He had a
Wow.
goal.
Oh, really?
He had a goal and 3 assists.
Oh, yeah.
When I looked at that, and I was like, you know what? I had one of those like.
Should I do it?
It was more like, why not?
Okay.
Wait,
Like,
did
what-
you?
No.
Is that one of your cute
no,
things?
I did not. What I did was I ended up going for what I felt like was security of minutes, which
Okay.
is why I ended up, even though I know what I said last week, I know I have sheeple tendencies. Cole Palmer ended up in my team again anyway. So his stupid 3 is sitting there or whatever he got. But it was him. That's why Bumo ended up in my team. That's why it was Salah and Diaz ended up in my midfield. It was I can't remember who my other midfielder was, but whatever. The point is that that was tempting because I was like, you know what, he did great last time. It would have ended up being
Bowen.
I put Bowen. Yeah, I put Bowen in there, which again that was more about minutes. I was more interested in him playing the most, if not the entire game, compared to like even Harvey Barnes or Jacob Murphy or some of those other guys. Okay. That's why Harv wasn't in there.
Yeah.
Szoboszlai, 8 chances created this week, top of all players so far. So I don't think anybody's going to top that, though, in Nottingham Forest or Brentford.
Maybe.
Do you know that Szoboszlai has 68 points in 2025? So since game week 21, Dominic Szoboszlai, 68 points. That is 7th best for midfielders.
That's interesting. We haven't given him any run. I would have thought that.
I wouldn't have thought it either.
He outscored Salah this week.
That's what I said.
I know. I just wanted to repeat it.
Is that good?
That good?
I guess, Travis, answer the question first. What's left to play for now?
Nothing. Pride.
Stats?
No.
Salah is
the only one that wants to do anything. And here's the thing.
Diaz has been on fire, bro.
Yeah, which is fine. Diaz is probably okay. I agree. Salah, Diaz is probably fine. I mean, Allison probably isn't a terrible pick either, but I mean, we saw it, partway through the second half. Gakpo has a opportunity to take basically a free shot. It's contested by the goalkeeper, but he has the angle. He decides to slide it across.
Yes, he did.
Under pressure to Salah.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear his teammates are trying to help him secure goals.
Right.
In the historic season. So I do think that they will continue to do stuff like that.
Captain
He'll still
Salah
play
every week.
I think they got a chip off their shoulder, and they'll probably play a little more free, but they'll also play a little more loose.
So there's no reason at all to go for Van Dijk, Konate, Trent, Robbo.
I have Konate, but I'm not.
Trent's probably not a bad pickup because I do think there's going to be a flourish potentially.
When are you going to say that?
Potentially.
He's gone. Screw Trent.
Yeah, but I do think that he hates
a Liverpool jersey so much he's taking it off when he scores.
He's competitive, and he's so competitive. He's the most competitive player I'm aware of. He does not like to lose, and you
don't know many players.
He's the most competitive player on the Liverpool team.
There you go.
That I know for sure.
I don't know, McAllister. I'd put him up
on the England national team, to the point where it is well documented that there are squabbles between him and other players because he doesn't like to lose.
Because they're not trying hard enough?
Right. Well, no, not even that. Like, they'll do like friendly competitions that get not friendly because he doesn't like to lose.
Okay.
Right.
He's got some MJ in it.
He needs to calm down.
A little bit.
MJ liked to win at everything.
Yeah. So all that to say, no, I don't think defensive players are probably a good idea. I do think that there will be a fair bit of rotation now that things are secured. But
to who?
I think Chiesa's probably going to get some minutes, if only to shop him.
Defense, you don't have rotation.
I think Nunes gets minutes.
I thought Darwin.
I think Kwanzaa gets minutes.
I thought Darwin.
I think Gomez is back and will probably get some minutes.
Okay, Gomez and Kwanzaa.
So I mean, there's a wholly a possibility that Bradley and Tsimikas will get minutes. I mean, like players that haven't got consistent minutes will get minutes towards the end of the season.
But Mo Salah is no one's taking his.
Salah is going to play, they're going to continue.
But you're not trying to find anything out with the current roster. The only thing that can happen is these guys can leave.
Yeah,
like Darwin's not. He's not staying.
Yeah, but
right,
you're obligated to. You're obligated to play these matches. I think he leaves. I agree. I do think he leaves. The word on the street right now, all the noise coming out of all the connected journalists, in Liverpool is this is slated to be one of the biggest summers that they've had in recent history, which isn't saying much because they haven't had a lot of big summers in the past 3-4
they haven't
years.
Needed it though.
Fair, but
adding a Szoboszlai, adding a Gravenberch.
Well, Matt McAllister was they were all cheap. They were all extremely cheap.
The best
right?
move out of all of them.
And when we did spend a lot of money, it didn't really help us in like Naby Keita and
Endo really helped you a lot.
Honestly, he really did.
Stop.
He really did.
We're not going to defend this. Do not defend this today.
He came on and kept the clean sheet against.
He did a great,
it wasn't a clean
job.
sheet, but
he did a great job.
He had his own little personal clean sheet because the goal had already been scored. But.
Luis Diaz is the 9th most transferred in midfielder. It's only 19,000 managers. But
yeah, I don't think,
and it's not cracking the top 10. Are you even thinking about buying him?
Yeah, I would. I would.
Really?
Now would be the time to do
I
it.
would too.
Yeah,
Really?
now would be the time. He
I'm
and
not,
Salah
but I
are
would.
definitely. Yeah, he and Salah are definitely worth.
Okay.
Looking at for sure.
I mean, you are not.
Diaz is cut from a different cloth,
but
bro.
you're not going to find better numbers really from almost any player since. Look at him! Holy cow! Game week 20. Look at game week 25, all the way back for Luis Diaz. It's not like world beater numbers, but holy cow, it's consistent. And
it's
and
really
that,
good. Are you kidding me? I take that every week.
That's what I'm
Brian,
saying.
who's the better ad this week if you don't own either? Would you rather, in a segment I like to call,
Okay.
Would you rather own Bumo or Diaz? Transfer them in this week.
I would still rather have Bumo, but it's not probably that far off.
Okay.
Would
you rather have Bumo or Bowen?
I already bought Bowen.
Okay.
So that was that's
So
the
you
answer
rank,
to that
you would
question.
say
They're
Bowen
the same
over Bumo.
price. I took Bowen over
Bumo.
Well, I didn't have money for Bumo.
Okay. But if you did, Bowen or Bumo?
I had exact money before Marcus Rashford dropped to go from Rashford to Bowen. So I would have had to take a hit or
but hold on, I didn't ask that.
Saka out.
If money didn't matter, would you rather own Bumo or Bowen? From this point moving forward the rest of the season. Like you have one transfer this week.
I wanted Bowen because of Spurs and Manchester United.
Yeah, that's a good
the
call.
next 2
Okay.
weeks.
There we go.
But they are all Brentford's scheduled the rest of the way. The reason why Bumo is the number one transfer in of all players for the rest of for the game week is Manchester United, Ipswich, Fulham, Wolves. So those 4 games to end the season for Brentford, barring injury.
Yeah, but for West Ham, it's Spurs, at United, Forest, Ipswich.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
because even the Nottingham Forest game is at home, and like we've said even last week, Nottingham Forest has been shoddy defensively.
Okay.
So the only thing that's keeping Nottingham Forest way up there is the fact that they are way up there in the table. So I mean, they're finding a way, and they seem to be actually good. But I think they're breakable.
Okay.
Is what I guess what I'm saying. So that even that week, I would still like temper expectations, but I'm not expecting. I'm not like, oh, Nottingham Forest is going to have an easy time because they're not having an easy time with anybody.
Yeah, they do definitely seem to be struggling.
I'm just saying, like when it came down to it for this week, where I was like, I'm going to pick one person, and I would have to make 2 moves to get Bumo. I can make 1 move to get Bowen,
okay,
or Diaz or whatever. I'm gonna take.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
It's not because, and that's what I'm saying. It's not like it's not like I don't have Salah. If I didn't have Salah, I mean, obviously,
Sure.
I think you'd still be trying to make the move to get there. So anyway, yeah. I mean, I get the Diaz pick. I guess I'm a little surprised that he's that far down. I guess if you're picking one or the other and you didn't have Bumo, you were just going straight there.
Yeah.
You're selling Saka. You're probably selling Cole Palmer. It frees up a good bit of money, and then you whatever, you can shift that around.
So that's the next thing we need to talk about is so Arsenal is now having to deal with the fact that Liverpool did not lose all the rest of their games at
Which
this
we
point.
knew was not going to happen.
So all they have is Champions League at this point,
To
right?
play for, yes.
So what?
And the coveted second place trophy.
So what is going to happen now? Brian, you alluded to the fact that everyone's selling Saka. Is that the play?
I will sell him this week.
Everyone is selling Saka, surprisingly, not the most, because
Really?
Cole Palmer managers they've had more than
They
enough.
should have sold.
And then actually Marcus Rashford's still ahead of Saka for transfers out. I think
Is he season done?
that's the report. Emery talked about it as he'll be out for weeks.
Oh.
And there are only
There's only 4 weeks left, and then I think it was an Aston Villa reporter who said that it's feared that his season is over. And then he was.
What was the injury?
Hamstring, I think.
I think that's true.
Hamstrings bit a lot of people this year, it seems like.
Yeah, for sure. Ask Ben Dinnery about recurrence, about injury recurrence for soft tissue injuries and how much more they are because of overuse.
So you really don't think that Saka, is he not going to get minutes, or is he just not going to perform? What is the
I think there's going to be zero. I think he won't start, and then he'll sub in just like he did in the game before the second Madrid leg.
So do they care if they lose Premier League games from here on out?
I think they still want to finish second. But for this next match week, the home game against Bournemouth, sure, I think you want to win. I think you want to give your home fans a better performance than you gave against PSG in the last home game.
You're 5 points ahead of Newcastle in third place. Manchester City is in fourth place.
6 points.
And Manchester City have, I would say, one of the easiest schedules the rest of the season.
And Rodri and Holland are in training.
If Manchester City actually play, it's Wolves, Southampton in the next two, Bournemouth and Fulham in the last two. I mean, if they get 12 points out of the last three in the last four games,
Southampton in that stretch, but I don't think they're prioritizing. Obviously, they're not prioritizing this next Bournemouth game.
Right, that's what I'm saying, though. If Manchester City, if they finish on 73 points, are you winning 2 of your last 4 games and not losing?
Yeah, I think so. I think they can get 6 points in the last 4 games.
Okay. I think you probably should be able to do that. Otherwise,
because I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think when they play Liverpool, regardless of what happens in the next match against Bournemouth, I think there's going to be Arsenal we haven't lost to Liverpool in a couple years. If I'm
well, you also have to play.
There's either been wins or draws, but then there's been multiple draws.
You got to play Newcastle as well. You did lose to in the reverse.
Smacked us around a lot. That's fact. The last couple times
you have 2 really tough games, and then Everton.
I think Arsenal has more to play for.
You don't have Everton
when they play Liverpool than Liverpool has to play for that game.
I agree with that.
And so, I expect Arsenal to play well there.
Yeah,
even though it's at Anfield.
Your schedule sucks.
And then we finish with Southampton. So,
Dave, your transfer, your 4th most transferred in for midfielders is Leandro Trossard because he can't stop scoring. The guy is on an absolute tear. For whatever reason, couldn't get the job done in 90 minutes against Brentford. But other than that, he's been amazing.
Last 4 match weeks, what? 9-2, 16-8?
I'm guessing he's the number 1 scoring midfielder in the last 4 game weeks. Would you? If not that, he's easily one of the top.
It's got to be close.
Is there a risk of him losing minutes, or is he more of a starter type? Regardless,
I think he would be more of a starter type this week.
League.
This happened exactly the same in the Madrid midweek, which was against Everton, if I believe, and he's the one that got the goal.
You should bet on Southampton keeping a clean sheet in game week 38 at home against Arsenal. I think that's a bet you should take.
You should take that, Travis. I'll take the
both
scoring.
Barnes and Murphy are higher scoring, by the way, than Trossard.
Really?
Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. They both had
some big games.
That's the double. That was.
I'm surprised Murphy, but Harv had some big games.
No, but either way, Trossard just scored a lot. I mean, fourth most transferred in. He's still ahead of De Bruyne. He's after the obvious guys. I'm a little surprised. I mean, I guess Morgan Rogers makes sense as the second most.
Rogers been a little cold. Feels like, but maybe I'm wrong.
He's just so cheap.
I think that's what it is, and also the schedule's okay, and also the potential of them playing twice.
Rogers has not been cold. The last 4 match weeks, 10-9, 6-6-1. So he blanked against City. That was it.
No, I mean, you're not buying the defender and Raya, like Saliba, Raya, Kivior. I think Kivior went up in price. I think he might have gone up this week.
will start the next. I mean, Arsenal doesn't have many defenders, and I'm imagining Kivior will play against.
And you're not rotating those guys. If anything, it's the Ben White, Zinchenko.
Ben White, Zinchenko will probably start. Kivior and Saliba will probably start.
Yeah.
And
Timber hurt? Or not hurt?
No, they'll just rest.
They just need him no matter what.
They just need him and Miles Skelly ready for the PSG attack.
Yeah.
For Doué and Vertuskelia.
But you can't do anything. You can't do anything with any of the other players. You're not buying Martinelli. You're not buying Marino now. This is a hard. If this is a don't buy, and if you have, don't even worry about selling.
Again, this is flashbacks to like 3 weeks ago. For the Madrid midweek, going into that, and it was just like, just don't do it.
All right. Jared Bowen was actually the next guy on the list. He had 2 assists this week, which was, tied for the most.
And they're going against the mighty defense of the Tottenham Hotspur.
He also, Bowen, in a 3-2 game with 2 assists, somehow only managed 1 bonus. I feel like that's wrong somehow. But since returning from his injury in game week 24, you probably don't need a lot of the numbers. It's just that he scored 64 points since game week 24. It's third most for midfielders. 4 goals, 4 assists for Jared Bowen. This is my favorite part of it, though. It's that he's 7th for shots, 3rd for shots on target, and 4th for shots in the box. So 26 total shots, 10 of those on target, 20 of the 26 shots in the box. 51 touches in the opposition box, which is tied for 10th. Same number as Bumo. So it's not like he's 10th. That's bad. It's still up there with a player that everyone is buying. He's still creative. So 12 chances created since game week 24 and 3 big chances created, but that's not like it's not what he had been doing at different times in the season where it looked like it was more creative than attacking. Like he's very clearly attack is greater than create.
Right.
So that part of it to me was why also he took 2 shots in this game against Brighton, not on target, but still if you saw the assists, they were fantastic. Just perfect placement kind of thing. So no, that's why Bowen for me was he went straight into my team while the money was exactly I'm on zeros as far as money in the bank, so needed to get in there. That one I feel like was whether he had done good or not. I think there would have been big interest in him because of West Ham's remaining part of the season. Do you care at all about Manchester United?
Who?
No.
I do wonder about Bruno, and one of the weirder stats from the week is that Alejandro Garnacho has taken the most shots.
He looks desperate, though. Did you watch the Bournemouth United game?
No.
It looked really desperate, and he actually was looking up as the ball was either arriving to his feet or as he was looking to make a move around a defender, and just completely missed the ball, and it went out of bounds on 2 or 3 occasions in the match.
Wow.
They do not look like a team that is shots are dangerous.
Yeah.
United,
they did score a
decent
goal,
United,
though, I will say
I want players who are playing against United. I mean, they are a disjointed team.
Weirdly enough,
they were huffing and puffing like crazy against 10 men, and it took a good team goal, which they did find to equalize, but they were
plus they also
really in trouble.
Happens tomorrow. We're recording on a Wednesday. It happens tomorrow. Both Spurs and United playing for Europa glory.
It's the only thing that matters for
and
both of them.
I don't think either one of them care much about the league.
Why would they?
They can't.
Nothing to play for.
So the FPL Wire guys had a good number. I'm sure this was coming from the Fantasy Scout site, but basically in the last what number of games? I don't know what number, but this is like recent performances. Manchester United expected goals conceded, expected non-penalty goals conceded. They're fourth best in
that doesn't make any sense.
Arsenal 1, Liverpool 2, Chelsea 3, Manchester United 4.96 XG conceded in the last. I don't know what number.
Doesn't make any sense.
Well, what doesn't make sense is the fact that they are still conceding so many goals that they shouldn't be conceding, right? Like it's the comical nature of why they think Onana is so terrible.
Really helpful stat, by the way, to have I'm not sure in what time frame this. But no, just that
we've never claimed to be a quality
defensively.
Podcast.
No, just that
I'm
not saying you're buying Harry Maguire. I'm just saying that this is. I think now that they're downgraded to light green and a matchup to target, and also the expectation that they'll be playing more of a B squad in the league.
It's true.
Concentrating everything they have the same way Spurs are on Europa League.
Spurs are who's United's playing? I know Spurs are playing Bodo Glint.
Mm-hmm.
They always want to make sure that everyone knows that's above the Arctic Circle.
Yeah, they talk about that a lot.
All the time.
Yeah,
I can't remember who United's playing. Travis, can you help me out with that?
Yeah,
Athletic Club.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Bilbao. Yeah,
yeah. Are they playing against Nico Williams? Is that where he plays?
I don't even remember.
I think he does. I think he does play for Athletic Club.
Again, a better podcast.
The former Arsenal, the soon-to-be Arsenal player.
The only reason why I'm saying he's started all but 3 games for Manchester United in the calendar year. Garnacho has.
Okay.
I mean, the obvious issues are that he plays for Manchester United, and he's another one of the rumored to be leaving guys. And
they have a great team.
No one is really sure how Amorim is going to feature the players that are left until Euros are over. But Manchester United are at Brentford, home West Ham, at Chelsea, home Aston Villa. I honestly think that's fine. Like, that's not a schedule where you're like, ooh, boy, I don't know if I really would want to go to those guys, especially people like, Bruno Fernandes. I said it before. I mean, we talked about him a little bit last week as somebody who's someone to at least consider. It wasn't crazy to consider him. This week, 7 chances created for Bruno Fernandes against Bournemouth, which is second only to Szoboszlai. And he did exactly what I thought he would. He ended up taking a decent number of shots. Bruno Fernandes was so good against Bournemouth, he got 2 bonus points in a 1-1 game that he didn't get an attacking return.
That's pretty impressive.
So he finishes with a 4 in the game week, which is better than Cole Palmer, by the way. But still, that Bruno Fernandes was still himself. He was still. Right. He's been so good.
Yeah.
And he's been good all season. And I think it stinks that he's. I mean, I know he's easy to hate, but he's been fantastic this year and playing.
He's had a good season. In a bad situation.
Yeah, as bad as it can be. So I'm just saying, like, I do wonder what this is going to look like. I mean, obviously, if they win or if they draw, or if, it's the same thing that happened to you with Arsenal this week.
Mm-hmm.
If it had finished 3-0 and you're stomped at home going into the second leg, I think you'd probably just concede that you're not going to. You know what I mean?
No, over Arteta's dead body.
It would be all the big talk about we're going to go down swinging, whatever, and you're not going to win that. You're not going.
It's only 1-0 though.
Right, that's what I mean. So now because
you have all those injuries,
it's only 1-0.
Because it's 1-0, you still feel like
we got a shot.
You legitimately feel like you have a shot. I'm just saying it's the same thing. Like if somehow
so did Liverpool after they were up 1-0.
Manchester United have all the Euro mojo because of the way the last game ended.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was nuts.
Right. It actually was nuts.
It's a shame we're not doing Europa podcast. Between that game and that overtime, which I was so disappointed our Slack channel didn't discuss at all because I'm watching it.
No one watches United.
I was watching it. It was absolutely insane. And then the Champions League game today, this is not Champions League podcast, between Inter and Barcelona was absolutely ridiculous. A 3-3 draw.
So all of that to say, I do wonder, like, these are both players who have, I mean, look, they're performing. Maybe not necessarily great, but I guess depending on, it's Manchester United pride. I think there is still some there. Deep down inside somewhere, there's some pride left.
In Bruno.
And there isn't anything left to play for in the league. So I just think, whatever. Yeah. I just wanted to throw it out there. Those guys actually did do something this week that I was like, that's really interesting. I wonder if that could possibly translate at all. You're not buying either of them. Bruno's still at 17% almost, though.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's high.
Hey, what about all right, other players? And we briefly discussed this. Travis, I can't remember if we're supposed to talk about this night moves or playing for something. But the teams with players who literally are not fighting relegation. Relegation has been done and dusted. Yeah. There's teams that are fighting for the top 5, 6, or 7. In other words, fighting for European play next season.
Yeah.
But then there's a big group that's not. And every year we in this pod we've referred to them as teams that are already planning on going to the beach. What do they have to play for?
Nothing.
What are they playing for? Is anyone playing for something in those teams? And how wise is it to own players from those teams? Brian, you've already alluded to Bowen, like, hey, he's a must-own going out. And West Ham has nothing to play for.
Yeah.
They're not getting relegated, and they're not fighting for a top 7 spot.
No.
So, I don't know. It's just pretty interesting.
I agree with that. I mean, from a fixture standpoint, your argument is sound. From a result standpoint, your argument is sound. But from a what do they care standpoint,
okay,
it's very different. I don't know that West Ham is a great pick on that one.
I do like the Bowen's the type of guy who's going to show up regardless. I mean, and Potter's wants to build toward next season. So I think there's certain teams, at least that had managers come in mid-season like Potter did, like Moyes at Everton, where you're looking at them and going, like he's kind of trying to figure out what he's got for next season. And I think guys understand that. And if they want to try to continue to impress the gaffer, then they're going to try to perform in those games. I mean, I feel like Bowen's already kind of proven himself, but still.
Yeah.
No, I think it's FPL GOAT. I think is the one who did put together. It's a short article. You could go find it. I think that guy's ranked in the top like 6,000 or something like that.
That's pretty good. If you're rocking FPL GOAT, you better be.
Basically, just said what kind of. I mean, it's something that it's not groundbreaking in any way, but basically just said, look, Villa, Manchester City, Brentford, and Nottingham Forest target players from those teams. They still have plenty to play for, or the fixtures are still great. You could easily throw Brentford into that category of they're safe.
Yeah.
They have no shot at top. The only thing they have a shot at 8th. If 8th gets you something, I mean, they have a shot at getting up to where Fulham is, but they're 5 points behind Fulham and Brighton and 4 points behind Bournemouth. I mean, I guess you could make that kind of argument. They're not mathematically out of the running for 7th, but so what? I guess would be the question.
Yeah.
So could someone bring clarity to this?
No, not on this show.
The Champions League
I think you
spots
misjudged us.
Champions League spots the Premier League's getting 5 next season.
That's 2 through 5 is
Europa getting 2?
Europa is
Premier
6.
League's getting 2 spots,
and then 7 is the conference.
Is Europa getting 2 spots because they have 2 teams in there this year with
That's
Spurs?
not my understanding.
Well, then how did they get 2 spots in there? Did Tottenham win Europa Conference, or did United win Europa Conference in order to get into Europa
West
League?
Ham won Europa Conference, didn't they?
So you see what I'm saying? It used to be that the Champions League teams, after going into the knockout stage, some of those Champions League teams would fall down into Europa.
Yeah.
Well, with the new format, that's not happening. So if there's 5 teams going to Champions League, is there 2 teams going to Europa and then 1 team going to Europa Conference? So that means there's 8 teams getting into European play. If that's the case, then Brentford does have something to play for. If they can get to 8th. You see?
Yep, it is 2. That is correct. It is 2.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I still think it's.
Although that could change if Spurs are United. Oh, no. That's right, because neither one of them are in the top 8, so that won't matter. But if they get. So then the other thought process is if Spurs or United wins Europa League, would they then knock out whoever got 5th place in Champions League, knock them down to Europa, and they would take that spot? I feel like that happened within the last 10 years in Champions League where someone won.
Yeah.
Chelsea finished outside they were in Europa League. They won Europa League, and they knocked out like Tottenham in the 4th place to take that spot.
Maybe.
I can't remember. It's a lot of things there.
Could be.
If only I knew my European football better. Unfortunately.
Yeah, so to that end, though, you've got 1 through 5, you got 6 and 7, and then 8th is Europa Conference League. So Brentford does still have that to play for.
So, they absolutely have something to play for. Because if you can get European football, that's more money to your club, big time, even if it's in smaller teams.
And that's the question is like how is that going to work? Because if one of those teams wins, that could potentially make 8th not. Yeah, so
that's right.
It's on the fence, but yeah, you play like you're going to get it. I guess
you have to.
Maybe there's money there. That's if not just pride, it's got to be
all
money.
about the money. All right. Double dilemmas. Are we done with playing for something?
Dilemmas.
Double dilemmas. Which we've briefly kind of gone over. It's just kind of unsettling.
Well, I'm talking about what could happen. What could happen? What are the permutations, Mr. Krellin?
It's either going to be in 36 or 37. We just don't know which week it's going to be in. But the 4 teams that are going to be in it is whoever's playing City and whoever's playing Palace in match weeks 36.
I just wanted to add before you move on to the dilemmas, just that to answer the West Ham question, the Claret and Hugh blog, the question of does West Ham the statement that they have nothing to play for, author Matt Kemp, I shouldn't say author, he's a writer. He wrote a blog post.
Okay.
That he says don't believe a word of it.
Ooh.
That they have nothing to play for with 4 games left. If results go their way, they could still finish 11th, which would mean £28.2 million
more than they have right now.
Compared to $11.2 million from finishing 17th.
It's a third of Acuna.
Arsenal's success, a third of Acuna. Get that money. Get that Acuna money. Arsenal's success.
Title, I don't know what is.
Arsenal's success in the Champions League also brings in further income of £1 million every time they qualify for a maximum of 5 seasons, negotiated as part of the Declan Rice deal.
Oh.
And was in addition to the $100 million already received.
Okay. Good.
Also, by entering this summer's Premier League Series competition in the United States, West Ham stands to receive a payout of approximately £4 million after costs. As such, the pressure is on Graham Potter and the team to step up their performances for the remainder of the season.
It's all about money.
Always, Travis.
Dispelling any myths
that they're not
about
playing
it.
for
There is
something.
nothing to play for.
Well, I just
wanted to clear.
I just
your
transferred in Kudos.
Just
Travis.
all aboard the Socek train. No, I just wanted to clear that up too because I saw that and that was something that I feel like is important. Yeah. So after all that talk about the handful of players that we discussed who had a good week this week, it might not matter in any way at all because Ben Crellin, where would we be without players like him? Or is it James from Planet FPL?
Yes.
I think also does it.
Yes.
But basically, the scenario is that the possible double game week 36 fixtures would be the teams having a double: Spurs, Villa, City, Bournemouth, Palace, and Wolves.
Well, that's way more teams than I expected.
Right. So Spurs, depending on what happens with their appeal to have this Villa game moved,
Oh yeah, that's
would be a double with Crystal Palace and Villa. Villa would then have a Bournemouth-Tottenham double. That would be both games at home also. City, because of depending on where the FA Cup final moves or what they do with the FA Cup and whether how it shakes out, whatever, would have at Southampton home Bournemouth as their double.
Juicy.
Bournemouth would get home Villa at City. We talked about that. Palace. I think I just lost my. I think I just ran out of battery. I knew it. Palace, Tottenham, and Wolves would be their double. They'd be at Spurs, home Wolves.
Okay.
And Wolves would get a double of home Brighton at Crystal Palace.
Wow.
So a lot of those are fixtures that you're like, I kind of like that.
Well, yeah.
You kind of look through that and you're like, that actually looks pretty good to me. The way he's describing it, though, Manchester City and Bournemouth and Crystal Palace Wolves will have...
Everything's falling apart. Travis, look at my screen. What happened to me?
You ran away.
I'm right here.
City and Bournemouth and Crystal Palace and Wolves will have to move from the weekend of game week 37. It will move either to the midweek of game week 36.
Right.
There's your double. Or
the midweek
of 37, which keeps it in game week 37. So then there is no double, which he says midweek 37 is probably more likely.
Interesting.
The question about Spurs and Aston Villa. Spurs have requested for Villa and Tottenham that match to be moved from the weekend of game week 37 back to midweek 36 so that they don't have to play the game on a Sunday before their Europa League.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Before a potential Europa League final on that Wednesday.
Oh, getting ahead of themselves, huh?
Well, I mean, they're playing.
You got a plan.
So they do have won a lot of trophies in the last 30 years.
You are hateful, but it's true.
Hey, they got a chance. They got a chance for a trophy.
So Chelsea and Manchester United, their fixture is already scheduled for the Friday before their Europa League final. So in the event that they get there, that fixture wouldn't have to move.
Okay.
So that's why that's not happening. But Villa, for the record, this is straight from a Villa reporter working for Birmingham Live, said that Villa have formally rejected Spurs' proposal to have the game moved. So
it's not likely.
I don't know. And they might, who knows?
Okay.
Who knows how it gets ruled. But Ben Crellin's final recommendation, save your free transfers. And the reason why is he said you're likely to get confirmation of whether any of those fixtures will move to 36 or stay in 37. That you will find out before the game week 35 deadline. So not this week, but before the deadline for next week. So
okay.
These are all questions that
Aren't we going into match week 35?
Yeah, we are going into 35.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So this is all potentially, could happen
like tomorrow.
Like
it'd have
before
to be
the
tomorrow.
deadline tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow or Friday.
Well,
before the
which
game
makes
on
sense.
Friday.
The games, there's 2 games on Thursday.
Yeah, but they're not.
You're right. They're the first leg, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the 35 games start on Friday.
All right. So I will say what I think my transfers will be.
So the deadline
subject
here,
to change
deadline
here.
for us will be 1:30 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So get your transfers in. Americans on the East Coast, and anyone else, whatever time zone you're in, at whatever time you need to get it.
Nice.
That's so helpful.
Nice, Brian.
Look, we're in one space. No,
All
so
right.
I think I would rather have not made a transfer. I also would rather that Marcus Rashford's hamstrings would have stayed intact. So
Well, that's a lot to ask.
That is a guy who already was on the radar for so many people coming into the after the blank game week to get back on him because of form and because of rotation and all of those things, and just thinking on the way out. Now the question is, like, why aren't you going for Ollie Watkins? Like Ollie Watkins, who's almost guaranteed to start, has really, like, his rotation partner is now gone, and they've got 4 games left that they have to win.
Arsenal's
Ollie
Watkins.
Why isn't Ollie Watkins your number one transfer target, Dave?
Good call. Because he plays for Villa and he hasn't been able to start recently.
Well, with Rashford out, that's an interesting one. All right, Brian.
Brian, your point is valid. I love their schedule going out.
Are you saving your free transfers as advised, or are you getting rid of Rashford?
I already got rid of Rashford.
All right, and who did you bring in?
Brendan Jared Bowen. Listen, this week, I mean, I don't want to spend points that I don't have. I don't want to dig myself a deeper hole. I do wonder with Saka, I mean, the way it works out now, I assume everything will be relatively normal with Crystal Palace until the final. So I still think they'll want, I hate starting. If I were selling, Munoz was one of the players. Did he drop in price? Munoz
currently is at 5.3.
Yeah. So I don't think he dropped yet. He's definitely a major transfer out. I really would rather not lose money on him, but it's not like, again, he's one of those guys. I don't know. You're not buying him, and if I don't sell him though, I'm gonna lose a tenth, and I feel like I know because of the big money guys. Like, if I'm not sure what Cole Palmer's selection percentage is at, I assume that also that Saka's is probably. It's over 20%.
22, something.
But it's going to be dropping a little bit. So I'm saying that you're probably selling the Palmers and Sakas. If you're selling them for, like, if you're buying Bumo, that's $2. So you're getting $2.
That's right.
At least. So that's why I'm saying, like, you're buying a cheaper player. And for the defenders or whatever, if you're moving them around, like, you're trying to find money. If you didn't have Guardiola already, you're trying to find, you're moving somebody up to the most expensive defender other than Trent. You're moving up to 6.3. That's not necessarily an easy thing to do.
Right.
Like, but either way, I just think that the money it feels like it doesn't have to be an issue because you're selling the expensive guys to get to cheaper midfielders or whatever. But I just still feel like this week is a perfect example. I needed exact money to go to a guy.
You had to make the move then.
Right, I didn't want to risk it.
All right, Brian, who you captaining? Because there's multiple good captain selections this week. You could go with Bumo, Salah, obviously. De Bruyne's playing home Wolves. The Newcastle guys are always an option, and you want to get wild. Bowen home to Spurs in a Spurs team that might be resting people for the next Bodo Glimt.
Just gave up 5 goals.
My captain will 100% either be Isak or Bowen.
Not Salah against the stout Chelsea
I will
defense.
not captain Salah against Chelsea. I will not.
Away to Chelsea.
You will be playing him though, right?
Yeah, I'm not benching Salah. I would love to know if Saka was, and Saka's not going to start.
Saka's not going to start.
So then the question is, who's going to score more? Any bench person I have, or Saka 1.
Okay.
So is Sarr at home against Nottingham Forest a better play?
Okay. All right. So I'm going to lean into that a little bit. I'm looking at, and I haven't hit save yet, but I'm looking at getting rid of Saka this week for Bumo, and getting rid of Sarr for Bowen.
Okay. For a hit?
I'd have to take a hit.
Yeah.
So the other thing is I'm looking at is, okay, wait a minute. Am I starting them? In other words, like there's no point in transferring someone in if you're not going to be starting them. Are you starting them? And then if you're not, can it wait a week if you really want to bring them in to then not take the hit? And that's what I was also looking at is, okay, wait a minute. So I got Murphy, Isak, Marmouche, De Bruyne, Vissa, Salah. I don't love my defense at the moment, but there's guys who are starting. I got Pickford probably in goal, home against Ipswich, but then there's Sells at Palace.
Right.
It's probably not horrible. Palace got him sort of embarrassed in the FA Cup final. I think they want another shot at something. So that they need to lock up top 4. So, yeah, there's, again, having guys who are playing for something, and I have Milinkovic and Sells. So I have decisions to make. So maybe I don't need to make 2 transfers. Maybe I do like Brian, again, we discussed this, just want to double check it. If you could bring in Bowen or Bumo and money didn't matter, and you could only bring in one for the matchup this week, Bumo home to United, Bowen home to Spurs, which one do you like better?
I like Bowen better.
His ceiling's higher in that
by
matchup.
A little bit.
Okay. Right, it's close. Splitting hairs.
It's close. I think they'd both take the penalties. I think that Bowen would still be on them.
Yeah.
But that might not be true. Where Bumo definitely is.
Travis,
but penalty, what are you predicting penalties? Who's predicting penalties?
No one's predicting
right,
penalties.
Exactly. So I would just take the player.
Travis, I have no idea who I'm going to captain yet. That sounds such a horrible cop-out, and normally that's not me. I think Brian's right. It probably will be. I'll probably go with Isak, but then again, it's just I feel like it's so hard to go not with Salah.
Here's my issue with Isak. This is another reason why I'm disappointed this week. I ended up going against. I mean, I was not going to captain Salah. I was not going to do it. I know. We talked about how bad Spurs suck, and it seemed like an obvious choice. It was a totally fine choice. I knew it was going to be Isak captain. If there's ever been a points dodging from a player in the league, it was Alexander Isak against Ipswich this week. Finishes the game week on a 1.69 XG.
Wow.
Scores a goal. Probably should have had 2 penalties in that game. And then had a huge open play goal.
They missed.
XG. Finishes with just the 1 penalty. And then subs out early. I mean, he at least he got something. Yeah. And then to go through the Spurs Liverpool game where Salah scores the last goal of the game, and prior to that point, it's fine, but everyone else, they didn't need it.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a consolation for him only at the very end of the game.
Agree.
And then he ends up with a bonus. So instead of matching, basically going for a 7, he goes for an 8.
Right.
Instead of, whatever. So either way, to me, Isak was one, I just said, Brighton has conceded basically 2 goals a game for the last 6 games. So Newcastle is obviously on a mission here, and Isak is, to me, I mean, he's as good of a player as you can captain.
Okay. I love that. Travis, what you got? What's your night moves? What's your transfer?
Yeah, I already mentioned I went to Trippier from Timber.
Okay.
And I looked at a couple of other ones.
Brian, no one can see you right now.
No one can see you.
I know. I like him doing that.
He's waving like a weirdo. I had a couple of other moves I was looking at doing that I may still do. But I'm going to sit on those.
Do you think it's worth taking a hit?
What are you sitting on?
Because I would have to take a hit.
Oh.
Well,
do you think it's worth taking it? I think if you captain the player, in other words, if you take a hit, if I bring in Bowen and Bumo and I captain one of them, I think then now all of a sudden the hit,
reasonable.
Is a little more reasonable. But again, if you have other guys that can play that still have a decent shot at producing, is it worth taking a hit?
Probably not. So at this point, I am looking at either Salah or Vissa as captains.
Vissa, that's a bold one.
I
It's
got
not
to do
that
something.
bold, but I get it.
Do
He's kind of on a heater.
I could.
Although,
I
again,
want to believe you about Isak, but right now I'm thinking I'm probably going to go with Vissa.
Okay, I love
I would
it.
also say too, the other annoying stat from this week is that Isak had 3 big chances, and there's not one other player that had more than 1.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, but Vissa hasn't played yet.
that's true.
that's true. Neither is.
No, I know. I'm just saying it's gonna be tough for anyone in the Brentford or Nottingham Forest game to accumulate a nearly 2 xG and miss 2 of 3 big chances.
100%.
So if it seems like those guys Wissa and Mbuma are too clinical to blow it.
That's
Isak
true.
normally
Probably.
is, but whatever.
Not the other day.
Of
All
course, it happened that way.
Gentlemen, Travis, I think we did it.
Did we?
We did something. We made it to the end here, and look, on a somewhat half prepared night, I think we produced some good content, some good stories, and I think we were at least entertaining, regardless if our content was good or not. Brian, one last thing.
I don't know.
Okay.
Matoma scored in the last 2 straight,
Interesting.
so that's something that you wanted to pick a Brighton player. I don't know if you really do,
But if you
Probably
did,
not.
but if you did, Matoma, what did he do? 25 and 28 minutes, both off the bench the last 2 weeks. That's
and
a tough thing.
But
Scored both games.
Interesting.
Uh,
Such a weird stat.
and Brighton's schedule going out is just as kind of ugly as the worst teams. Just that he's home Newcastle, Brighton's home Newcastle, at Wolves, home Liverpool, at Spurs. I don't know. Maybe that Spurs game.
Yeah.
There might be 10 goals in that game.
Yeah, could be.
All right. Well, very good. Gentlemen, I'm looking forward to this week and really kind of looking forward to seeing what happens in 36-37 with all the intrigue. Hopefully we'll find out something on Thursday/Friday before the match week closers. Remember this week, match week 35 starts on Friday with City and Wolves. So I think it's City and Wolves. Yeah. Don't let that slip by. Don't get caught not having saved your lineup and or making your transfers by Friday afternoon here in the U.S., Friday morning in the U.K., and whatever other time zone you're in. Make sure that it's done at the right time. For the FPL America podcast, this is David Smith. Until next time.